Good morning, everybody. As you can see, there's a new office set up, and I've tried to place different Easter eggs for different people to see and to look at and to notice. So I'd really like it if people actually commented and said things that they noticed and thought were pretty cool. So this morning on my run, I was trying to go out and just get about 4 miles in. Part of the goal in every sort of run is building towards the weekly mileage goal, which is 20 to 30 miles, which is a really big range. And then trying to progressively run every single street in the city of Maumee. Now, City Strides tracks that, and so I had planned out a route, and as usual, I plan out a route and I don't run it, and I go into autopilot and run a wrong route. But so I'm going out and I turn onto River Road, and there were 10 plus emergency cars there. And this is 7:15 in the morning, 7:15, and it's just kind of crazy to see that many emergency vehicles. I looked it up later, and there was a fire, and it's about 5:30 in the morning that fire departments from different municipalities responded to it. So prayers for that, and I think that could be an opportunity. If people know if there's a way that we can help and serve, let us know here. The Rambling Reverend wants to know how to help. But just going out on that run makes me think about just something that sticks out in my brain that I don't know a lot of people if they do this, but I get lost all the time going for runs out in this new location, with the goal of running every single street in this town, and with there being the ability to map out a run beforehand on different websites. You would think I'd do a better job, but it's incredible how you can lose your bearing as to north, south, east, or west when you're running in a new location. And I guess that could be a metaphor. Make sure you don't lose your bearings when you're stepping into new territories. Don't be assumptive, and make sure to be cautious. But the beauty with going for a run is if you have enough time that you can get lost, then you get lost, and the worst thing that happens is you run a few extra miles. So running is, for some people, they have no idea about my running history. For some people, they have an exaggerated view of my running history, but my wife and I both enjoyed running quite a bit and competed at different levels, her much higher than me. But it's been cool getting to watch my daughters. They are competing in cross country. The local elementary schools have an actual cross country thing. I competed in cross country 1 year in elementary school, and no, I was going to compete 1 year in elementary school, and had to decide between city league soccer versus school cross country, and then the school stopped having cross country after that. But anyhow, out here, it's kind of neat, and last week it was a half-mile race for both of my girls, different age categories, and my oldest was just super sad because she wanted to do a full mile, which is really fun to watch. The fact that she had this passion, and everyone else was super happy. Not everyone, but most girls and boys were happy that it was a half mile last week and not a mile. But this week is a mile, and both of the girls in their respective races is about 40 kids in the race. They both took third, and that was really, really, really cool to see. It's exciting. Learning how to enjoy your kid and their talents without being adding too much pressure on them. I believe the quarterback's name was Rod Maranovich. He was eventually a Raiders quarterback, and it was in the 1980s or early 90s. There's actually a documentary made about him. His dad trained him to be the perfect athlete, and then the guy just went off the rails, and I'm nowhere near doing that. I think most families are nowhere near that. But cautionary tale, let your kids enjoy childhood. But while we're on the topic of cross-country and my two daughters, it's been neat watching them and how they want to be distinguishing. My middle child has these bright orange shoes, and the colors for the local school are purple and gold, and orange does not at all work with purple and gold, but she's pretty visible, and kind of reminds me of my spikes that I raced in track in high school. Our school colors were orange and black, and this was back in the day when you ordered through East Bay magazine. There wasn't a lot of online stuff in the mid 2000s, and I bought a pair of ASIC Zoom mid-distance spikes. They had a Velcro strap that could make them be tighter, and they were two-tone, and you could either buy a red and black two-tone or a blue and silver two-tone, and there's no way I'm getting red and black, because that was red was the Coldwater and the Marshall, two of our local rivals in our conference. They were red, and so I went with it was like a baby blue and silver. They were not considered masculine at all in that time. Nowadays, this is the beauty is kids can race and compete in whatever color shoes they want, and it's a statement. Not really made fun of, but back in the 2000s, opponents made fun of my shoes, and if you're one of my athletes, you've probably heard this 80 times. Every time someone made a statement about my shoes, I made sure to beat them. And so I'll let my girls wear the shoes that they want, and we'll figure it out. The best shoes are the shoes that are comfortable. The color is just a secondary thing to that. But yesterday, I led a meeting at the church about the different ministry area teams. We're once a month just asking them about how things are going. And then this month was basically we need to have a budget proposed for next year. But I had an icebreaker that was, what about your childhood do you look back on and realize you've grown or you've changed or you thought was silly or foolish? As a parent, I think, wow, I'm glad I can understand now why my parents did or did not want me to do something. And so as a young child, I was incredibly imaginative. As I've said before, and I might actually start throwing in some drawings now that I'm getting more and more capable of thinking I know how to add or edit to this. I drew superheroes and created entire superhero worlds. And one of the first heroes that I made, I was Dog Man, my brother Tim was Monkey Man, and Monkey Man was super fast, I was super strong. Obviously, we copied the origin story, Spider-Man being bit by a radioactive spider. I was bit by a dog, he was bit by a monkey. Anyhow, those were two of the first, and then another guy was he involved like discs. If anybody remembers those discs that had 3 different wings, and then like you pulled it on a spiral stick and it shot up and flew. I had a hero who had those sort of deals, and some were sharp, some were strong, all that other stuff. The big Batman utility belt idea. But the other hero, now granted, I want you to remember this is about 1997 to 1998. I would run around with a pair of underwear over my head and use the leg holes as eye holes, and I was Underwear Man or something like that. I don't think it was Captain Underpants. It might have been Captain Underwear. And I was a superhero. I can't remember anything more than the fact that I had underwear on my head as the mask or whatever. And I had been imagining this character for a little bit. And my mother went to the library and she saw this comic book this book called Captain Underpants by Dave Pilkey. And at that point I thought it was Dav. It's actually David. Interesting story there. I want you to Google it. Why is D-A-V Dave Pilkey instead of Dav? That's your homework. But anyhow, she brought me she thought it was just so funny that lo and behold, there's this book about it. And so As the typical hipster of my generation, which I was not a hipster at all, I was doing it before it was cool. But then also alongside that, if you know your Dave Pilkey, he created a character called Dogman. And I remember seeing Dogman on shelves when my wife and I were early married, and even a little bit before then. I was always like, I just want to buy this book because I was Dogman. And I didn't even really put together that it was made by the same writer early on. And then eventually when I put it together, I was like, this is neat. And then when we had kids, my wife and I can't remember how or why, I probably grabbed the Dogman comic and gave it to my oldest to read, or read it to her when she was like 4. And my kids love Dave Pilkey. I think we all agree that Cat Kid Comic Club and Dogman are better than Captain Underpants, but Dave Pilkey's written a lot of different books, and I just think it was really neat, a full circle moment there. As a child, just the creativity and the imagination, writing comics, and then now Dave Pilkey, his whole world revolves around Harold, and oh my goodness, I can only remember Harold right now, and his friend. I want to say Kumar, but that's a different movie that I've never seen. But Harold and his buddy, they write comics, and they're super creative little boys. But anyhow, that's childhood and just a rambling there, just thinking about all these little things. And the other day I read, I've been reading Nancy Drew with my oldest daughter. I bought her the first 5 books starter set, and she's enjoyed it. The funny thing, not funny, I remember being super scared about anything and everything as a small child. In fact, the movie Ernest Scared Stupid, which is not a scary movie, it's a comedy. The Ernest movie, it's their Halloween one. I remember being scared from that movie as probably about 6 years old. Because we were living on Domingo, so I'd have been 6 years old, 6, maybe 7 at that point, and having to sleep in my mom and dad's room because I was just scared from that movie. And so I guess I should have more sympathy for my daughters because they're very scared at most things, but I love their sensitive hearts. So Bennett, there's some very intense moments in Nancy Drew for the girls. But my older brother Tim and his wife Megan, they bought for Bennett the 100th anniversary edition of the Boxcar Children #1. And full disclosure, I read it to myself, not to Bennett. And it's just neat when you go back and you read the old books. Childhood, going back and reminiscing about books that you read as a kid or not as a kid. And one thing that I didn't do as a kid was grow up in a church that recited the Apostles' Creed, but that is what I'm writing for the adult Sunday school class that's starting this Sunday. And something that I don't know how often people do this. Maybe I'm unique, maybe I'm not, but I'm writing through every single clause of the Apostles' Creed, and just really thinking about every single word in it. And so often in life, we, especially now that we're in this era where we are constantly watching movies, digital shorts, or we're constantly ingesting media, the practice of deliberately mulling over every single word of something and trying to digest it as a whole, looking at how well it is worked out as an entire creed, and then thinking through the entirety of Scripture and what are the biblical echoes in each of these words, and then thinking forward through how is this interpreted or attached to the entirety of Christian history. So that's been a really neat endeavor, and last week I met with the Sunday school teacher who's going to be teaching that, and that was just a fantastic conversation I had with him, which was my inspiration for the post last week of go out and have conversations, touch the grass. I know that's a cliche phrase, and just enjoy it. And so now that we're at the end of the video, cliche phrase, a couple weeks ago at youth group, we were talking about highs and lows, and there's a girl in the youth group who does swimming, and she's looking forward to swimming. And I'm like, I respect you so much in your swimming because I view swimming the same way that most people view running. It's something you don't want to do. And I was like, yeah, like I know ideally I should be a swimmer because my wingspan is 6'7", and I just kept, and then didn't even think about it. And the kids in the youth group were all like, you just casually dropped 6'7" on us like that? And I'm like, what? And I was like, oh yeah. I didn't even realize it was a thing. And then I tried explaining that event to the head pastor and one of the secretaries here, and they're both like, what? What's going on? What's funny? What's ironic about that? And I don't know how to handle the reality of speaking or talking in a world where you can't say the numbers 6, then 7. Without kids going 6, 7. Like my daughters are doing it because evidently all the kids, well, it's getting out of hand. But what I do appreciate is that one of the other kids in the youth group, he shouts out 4-1 or 41 in response to that. And I'm like, that's right. Dirk Nowitzki, go Dallas Mavericks. So at least that's the call and response that happens on. But again, take a note at all the different Easter eggs. What's going on? What do you see? What do you notice? Hopefully next week it's a different camera, different microphone setup, and I know I've promised that I'm going to start interviewing and talking to other people, which is going to make this be a whole lot longer and more rambling. That's going to happen. I ordered some stuff this morning, and anyhow, love you all. Shout out to Carter Chenoweth for dominating freshman there at the Cooperative South Fulton. I'm watching the cross-country results there. I'm following as much as I can my former athletes and athletes that I wish I had coached out here. Is kind of neat. One of the Maumee cross-country girls ran an 18:05 5K, broke their school record by 40 seconds a couple weeks ago. And there are so many kids in the cross-country group with my daughters, and so I'm excited to see the future of distance running out here and seeing how I can or cannot get involved with it. The shirt, also real quick, for those who saw it, this is an Easter egg for anyone who went to college with me. All right,